welcome back to God Meet Me Podcast. We're so happy to be here again with you today. We're your hosts. My name is Sophia, and this is my cousin, Peyton.
That's me. Welcome back to our channel, everybody. If you're new here, please don't forget, to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll appreciate it so very much. So I've been taking a lot of summer classes this summer, and one of them is in education class, as obviously we're both educators. And one of them, for one of the chapters, we had to watch the documentary of Jane Elliott and her blue-eyed, brown-eyed study. I don't know how many people have heard of that.
But Peyton hurried up and told me to watch it as soon as she did.
Yes, I think we've seen it. You've seen it a couple years ago. Like we've been kind of knowing about it.
Yeah, like I knew it existed,
But this one was like a full hour-long documentary on all the different studies she'd done and kind of how the effects of it went through the years. Hello, everyone. We're back. We had such a rough start that we had to take a boba break. But back to what you were saying about how...
that it was just neat to me. I didn't realize how impactful it was. And you know what? I think part of the reason it was neater to me is because I've been a teacher now for a while. And I've interacted with children. And just the way that the children responded to it, and I could picture in my mind, like, what if I did this to my third graders?
What would
and
happen,
it started feeling really real to me. And I was like, ooh, yeah, I can see how this, because in the documentary, she's meeting with the children like 20 years later or something, and they're rehashing what happened. I'm like, yeah. No wonder they remember that. It was literally over a 2-day period, and these children were straight traumatized.
So basically what she did is she was trying to teach them a lesson about inclusion and how racism affects people in America. And she basically said, what we're going to do is we're going to pretend for one day that brown-eyed people are better than blue-eyed people, okay? And the brown-eyed people have to wear bibs, they have to wear collars, they have to wear something. We're not going to be nice to them. You know why? Because they're stupid. And you know why else? Because they're dumb. And you know why else? Because they're lazy. See him sitting right there with his ankles crossed.
Like you can find any reason at that point.
See, and now she's turning red because she's embarrassed that she's a brown-eyed person, which means that it's embarrassing to be a brown-eyed person. And the children basically just took this narrative into their hearts.
Even though she told them we're pretending, you know?
Yeah, but then she actually did a really good job of kind of making it feel
She did
real.
it with a straight face.
Like she wasn't cruel, she wasn't mean, but she just said...
You are not as smart.
Kept the children away. And she said she watched, what did she say? You said it better. She watched regular children turn into...
Okay, well, yeah. She said, I watched sweet and normal third graders. She said turn into these... I watched sweet and normal children turn into these nasty monster third graders or something like that. Like they were so mean to each other. And they weren't allowed to play together. But then, like, the children... What was crazy was the effect on the children that were better, right? Because the children that were less, it made sense. You know, they started putting their heads down. They were...
From an educational perspective, I think it was really interesting.
Yeah,
The fact
they
that, like,
stopped
all their
performing.
speed drills were, like, a minute longer. They got less right. And it's just interesting how, like, that's actually affecting people.
Yeah.
Like, that was 24 hours. Imagine being born into a system like that, you know?
They physically got lower grades on their tests, right? So that was kind of to be expected. But the way the older ones just got mean for no reason... And one of the boys talked about it when he was older, too. He's like, it felt so evil, but it was just like all the pent-up frustration I've ever had with this, that, or the other, you can just release it into this, like, bad channel on that other child. The one child comes in crying. Why are you crying? He called me a brown-eyed. Like, don't act like that's a thing. The way children, like, but that's how, you know, that's what it is for children. It turns into things. And we laugh at children when they do that. But low-key, that's what adults are doing on a bigger scale. And she was like, well, would that have bothered you yesterday if he said your eyes were brown? But now it means something,
no,
right? It has a negative connotation.
Absolutely. I think it was really powerful. And to me, when I was watching it, it just kind of dawned on me, a topic that we had talked about before, but it just really reinforced the idea that we often talk about white supremacy and oppression and different things like that. And people often think that it's this woe is me story. Black people are so down bad. They can't do anything. They'll never get up. And I don't even think that's a true story. And I don't even think that's what it sounds like. But people often take that narrative to heart. And I think on the flip side of things, if we look on the side of people that are supposedly on top, they're being just as tricked as everyone else is. And maybe it's worse for them because they don't realize that them being put on top is built on top of a foundation that actually so their supremacy is built on nothing, and they just have like a false sense of superiority that actually prevents them. Like these children were losing best friends because of their superiority complex. Like people that they had communicated with before, people that probably helped them, people that probably had good things to give them, in a community sort of sense of the word, right? We all need each other. How we always say from Dr. Martin Luther King, what affects one directly affects all indirectly. And you lose that perspective when you are in a supreme situation.
Like Brother Steph said, he talked to America and how we didn't, undergird the slaves with that 40 acres of land. But he said, really, the European immigrants were not technically benefited by the land they were given either, because it was stolen. So they had the physical benefit of land. But what that does to your mind, to be given land that was stolen from somebody else,
land.
the way that changes the way you think, and now how your children think, like you automatically believe
That
you have a right to something that not only isn't yours, not only did you not earn, but it was stolen from somebody else.
We would never teach our children that. And if someone taught their children like that, we'd be like, poor children, they're going to go around thinking they're entitled to everything. And then one day they're going to find out I'm actually not. And in the sense, I don't know how to say this correctly, so maybe you can help me. But America oftentimes tries to act like it's the great benefactor, the land of opportunity where everyone can get everything.
Hey.
And they offer things that aren't theirs. And then Steph talked about in his message, how those immigrants, a lot of them were chased out of
They wanted to stay where they loved their home. But there was famine, there was,
different sorts of things. And we could talk about how the money systems are all connected and how famines were actually created to bring people here. And then America acted like, guess what we have for you? We have a present for you. Like, no.
It's called cheap labor.
No, that's not what happened. You chased them out of their land to move into your land and to promote your system and actually add them as a layer to a system of slavery. And in that sense, everyone is black.
Right.
Even though that's a tough statement to take in, and I'm sure it would take me a lot more time to explain exactly what I mean for it to not be as triggering as it sounds immediately off the cuff. But in that sense, we're all in a system that is interrelated, and it shouldn't be like, oh, those poor black people, what can we do to help them? They're so oppressed. But it's also
us.
reflecting inside of yourself.
It should always be an us thing. If you're black, white, whatever you are. Right.
And I think Brother Steph's talked about that too. Like during the marches, he said, I don't think there was a lot of white people that said, hey, don't do that to them. That makes us white people look bad when you're beating up on those black people. Like, we're not like that, and they kind of did it out of a desire to like help other people, and not out of a desire to know, like, no, you won't do this to us.
As a human family.
And that's the mentality that we need to have.
Peyton, everything you were saying was super good, and it was just like triggering thoughts to me the whole time. I was thinking about oppressive comparisons, because that's what people start doing. They start saying, okay, but we were oppressed, and then they were oppressed, but then our oppression was more than their, and then
you can't compare what happened to you to what happened to those indigenous people, and the fact that those black people are even complaining. It's sickening to me. Like, it's just, and it becomes this.
If you start that comparing, then that in itself becomes oppressive, because hold on. Guess what? Everybody's trapped inside the system, so everybody's been oppressed. Now, you might say, well, why do you always talk about oppression from the African-American standpoint? Well, that's all you ever say. That's all you ever talk about. Well, aside from the fact that we identify as black, the African-American slave has the best vantage point. Well, okay, let me rephrase it. Understanding oppression from the historical perspective of the African-American slave is the best way to understand oppression, because of how refined it was. It happened right here on American soil. In fact, slavery
that claims to be the land of the free,
the home of the brave. It is a foundation of America, and the way that was never fixed, but just reworked. We've talked about the fabric not changing, but being dyed. Like it is the perfect place to see how oppression can work, because it wasn't as it was blatant, and then it wasn't, and it changed, and it was different, and just the way it can shapeshift and move, but still have its claws sunk deep into the people who don't even realize it. And that's the other thing I was thinking about. Like, and I think you mentioned this. I think often, I'm not saying always either, but often African Americans have this advantage of understanding oppression and realizing that there is a system that's out to destroy you and blah, blah, blah.
Because our music has always talked about it. Our leaders have always talked about it. That's always an understanding. There's people up here where we're not, that don't have our best interest in mind.
Right.
There's a political system
Right.
that is full of corruption. There's a and
because it's our history, it's our physical history. Our great grandmothers were slaves, and so to us it's not that far away. Whereas I think there's some people that are like, what are you talking about?
Because they were given a superior position, so
I
they
think
don't
that's
have
what you
to
meant
see
by
it.
it's almost and I think that's what you meant by it's almost worse, because they don't even realize it. They're being oppressed too, and they don't even know. They're just floating along like, hallelujah, here's my life, and instead of realizing, wait,
Like, I'm on stolen land.
Exactly.
I am reaping the benefits of a group of people that never got paid for their labor. And this, we always say this all the time. This isn't about having a victim mentality. This is about understanding history and providing enlightenment to what we think are answers and solutions to every problem that is in the world today, which is a bold claim, but we really believe that.
Because we could sit here all day and complain, or have the attitude of, well, I guess since this was done to our people, we can't do anything. We just need everybody to come help us forever, and we can't do anything.
And I don't even think people could say that about the Black community. I think we're some of the most resilient people that America has ever seen. The way we shine so brightly in every space that we go into, like in every way I can think of, in the arts and in speech and in every way, we really have found ways to shine in different things like that.
For sure.
But yeah.
Although I do think there's still a large majority of people that can have the victim mentality.
Yes.
And I'm just saying, that's not what we're doing here at all.
Yeah, and there are Black people that have a victim mentality, and they wield it to use white guilt, and they wield it to be manipulative and different sorts of things like that.
And that's actually oppressive.
But there is a difference between that and actually sitting down and reckoning with your history, reckoning with America, and talking about the facts that happened, and the fact that things that happened in the past actually do affect us today.
Actually, let's do another podcast where we talk about America. And kind of like what America has done, because that's an important conversation to have. And do not get me wrong, I am happy to live here, but I think we need to talk about some of the things that happened in American history.
Because Martin Luther King gave that speech where he said
I want to talk about it. I want to talk about that in another podcast.
Sinful.
But anyway, yeah, it was scary to me what happened to the children in the space of 24 hours. How mean they got for no reason.
No reason.
And they didn't even know why. And this experiment, it hurt. It was good for them. It taught them. But in the moment, it hurt the children that couldn't, sit in there. It could help the children that couldn't go back for seconds at lunch or whatever she said. But it also hurt the children that were advantaged.
And then also the other day,
they mean people.
They literally were so rude and evil. People, like, they had just been, I saw them before class, like, being friends, and then they looked at each other and they started looking at each other's eyes like, ooh. And then the next day she flipped it the other way. She said, never mind, I was wrong yesterday. It's the blue-eyed people who are terrible. And all the children who had been oppressed got up and were like, from their rage the day before, were able to let it out on all the other children. And it just shows you how that oppression now it's your turn. Now it's your turn. It's not that one person's better than the other. It's just based on a position that you're put in.
That you were given.
She was in charge of the classroom. They couldn't do anything about it. And their small little minds, they thought this is the end all be all. It's our teacher. We had to do what she says. This is it right here. And there's a danger in being in that position and being vulnerable and not having the understanding of how that worked. Right. She also did it in a prison system.
Which was so interesting. Well, those were prisoners, though.
With the correctional officers at a prison.
And the way some of the adults responded was so interesting. Like, obviously, they were kind of more aware. But, were they like, they got uncomfortable? And I was watching this thing cringing myself. Like, I would have been uncomfortable in this situation. And I think it was good. Like, the discomfort they experienced now. And you know what? I was watching them, but also I was watching, there was like 2 Black people in the whole room. And I was like, I wonder how uncomfortable this is for them the whole time. And then I was like, but think about it. Think about how often Black people are put in uncomfortable situations. Other people don't even think about it.
Don't think about it at all.
But like, how often we're by far the minority in the room, or people are like having a conversation about us, or
we had like a discussion board in class the other day because we were talking about, like, has there ever been a time in your life when something like this has happened? And I mentioned a circumstance where it's like, it's interesting because we've often talked about we've grown up in a church that is 97% white. So like that puts us in an interesting position. I don't hate my heritage. I don't hate my church. I love it. I'm a part of it. I'll never leave it. But it does put you in an interesting perspective. I remember a story from when I was younger, something happening. When I was younger, you often get put on like
display, kind of
put on display and put in a position where people ask you to do things, but you kind of sort of start to feel like they're not doing it because you're actually good at what you do, but just because of
a token.
Right, just because of what you represent. And I think that's a thing that people often don't think about that they're doing.
And they don't think about the discomfort of that situation. And her doing that to them.
Very uncomfortable.
That made them uncomfortable. And it was like, and one lady was, trying to say afterwards, well, we've all been discriminated against. And I appreciated one lady. She was like, maybe in some ways, but you don't know the discomfort. You don't know, the challenge of waking up like that every day, all day. And just, that's your life. Like, being put in uncomfortable situations.
And I don't know if we want to talk about this some other time. Actually, I really, for real, I'm being so serious. Cut this out if like it doesn't matter. But I also think that's why a part of the reason why I don't agree with the LGBTQ. The LGBTQ. 1999. That's a part of the reason why I don't agree with the LGBTQ community attaching themselves to the civil rights movement in that sort of a way. Because to me, it's just like, it's not the same thing. It's not like you were born and you were black and you can't hide it when you go out.
I'm going to push back on you, not because you're wrong, but not because I think you're wrong, but
what people
they think they're born like that.
Yeah, well, that's not a problem, but I just think it's the fact that you can't hide it when you're like, this skin color is never going to leave me. The history of that is never going to leave America. I think if you're a part of one of those movements, there is a possibility where you could blend in and not have. And I would never agree with anybody that's being rude, discriminatory, treating people less than human.
Anything.
I just think that it's a hijacking in some sense to attach itself together in that way, just like the civil rights movement and that movement of itself.
But okay, and I think this is a good topic. Maybe it's like different, but I don't care. I'm interested.
It's like a totally new conversation.
Well, it's in some ways, but in some ways, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Why is it different though? Besides the fact that you could blend in, because you could say that that's being mean. Like,
okay, and
I'm totally being the devil's advocate here, but like, they want to live their lives too. They want to be who they are. So why should they have to blend in to try to, you're basically telling them to pass.
Like passing as, because there were people that passed this way, right? So I think like some of the difference too is also the spirit in which it works. So I think there is people that are just living that lifestyle because obviously I'm a Christian, so I don't agree with that lifestyle just based on biblical principles. Now people are free to do whatever they choose, and I don't feel hateful or any sort of way about it, so I want to be careful in expressing that. But I do feel like, I forget what I was going to say. No, the spirit. I feel like there is a spirit that can come with the LGBT community that can be very evil and nasty and push itself on people. An agenda that, like, if you ever see like the drag queen fest and all those sorts of things, it doesn't feel like it is good spirited and not, and this, it doesn't feel like it's in the spirit of love and of a sound mind and all the fruits of spirits and those sorts of things. And it actually, I feel like it tries to force itself upon people.
Yes, I was
and
they
come up to you like, if you don't agree with me, you are not a good human.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can respect you. I can respect your choices. I can respect you as a human. I can respect the value that you add to my life. And at the same time, I can be a grown adult and disagree with your choices.
And I think we're talking about a very sticky thing, but honestly, sometimes the ones that are like speaking the loudest about accepting people won't accept, for example, me or you when we disagree. Now, there is a line because you may not hurt people. You may not be mean or rude or discriminate against.
That's not Christianly.
Christ would not, just no. But that does not mean I have to agree with you. And you forcing me to agree with you is just as intolerant.
Yeah.
Is more intolerant than me disagreeing with you because I'm fine with you as a human. I just disagree with your lifestyle choice.
Yeah.
I should be allowed to do that.
Yeah.
And that's different. Like, being black is not a lifestyle choice. And obviously, people would say they're born the way they are, and they're allowed to think that. I don't think they are. And to me, we would disagree there, because they think they're born that way, so they think that argument can leave them there.
And to me, that can be a conversation that's held in love and in grace and in the interest in the interest of bettering humanity and in the interest of literal humans just liking to work through things and work things out. And to me, there's a difference between that and then accusing people of all sorts of foolishness because they simply don't agree with you. If somebody likes bananas better and I like apples better, I'm never going to be like, you terrible, right? It just doesn't make sense. And I feel like that sort of a spirit is divisive, actually, and it's polarizing. And it's telling you must be with us or you must be against us. And it's just not that way.
The Voice of Seven Thunders did such a good podcast about this. I don't even know if you can find it anywhere. But they talked about civil rights versus human rights and how it's two different battles.
Yeah.
The right to be treated like humans in general. It's not the same. I don't know. That's something, like, we can leave this in, but it's like we threw it in for free. I would love to study about it a little more.
Yes, and actually becomes very, very well informed about it, because I'm not sure about how legislation and everything like that worked. I know it's all been a recent sort of struggle, and that terrible atrocities have happened in the past to people of that community. So I would love to get into it and actually... Either me, I would feel comfortable with me and you talking about it. I would feel comfortable with bringing someone else on to talk about it. Because I do feel like it's a touchy subject. And maybe we didn't say everything right just right now in this conversation that we had. And I would love to work on articulating myself better. Because I know what I feel.
Same.
And
I actually feel pretty strongly about that. Because I feel like both political sides conflate the two. Both. I feel like people in the Republican, people that identify as Republican, put those two together and say, y'all are woke and taking things too far. I'm not saying all Republicans. I'm saying there's people in that, party. And then I think there's people in the Democratic Party that say we just need to make rights for Black people and people of the LGBTQ community. And it's just not the same thing. It's not. But how to say that and why, and I would like to study more and think about it. Anyway,
we should. So
we got a little sidetracked, but
so sidetracked on that.
We had been talking about Jane Elliott originally.
But
anyway, yeah,
I would highly recommend everyone watching that docuseries.
We'll drop the link, right?
Yeah, and just seeing how that affected everyone, and just for an interesting topic for what was so-called white people to just consider, like, this is not a us and them problem. This is not something that happened to them. This is actually, you're not just passive viewers in something that happened to Black people. This is actually the same thing that happened to you. And we're literally just layers in the struggle, and it's easier to see it from the underside.
The simple quote of, we stand divided, we fall. The only way we can make a difference, the only way we can, the only way we can reconcile history and fix our future is by standing together.
Absolutely.
As long as to you it's a them problem, then we're not going to do anything to make things better. As soon as we all realize this is us, and it's us against this system. It's not us against each other. It's us against the system that hurt all of us.
And that's what God would want us to see. And I think we do actually need to sit down at some point and break down what we mean, because we say the system a lot, and we talk about Cain and his city building and the system they built that was built on fallacies and built on lies and was built on division and was built on brother killing. And we should sit down and have a conversation about something like that. But yeah.
Anyway, me and Peyton will keep doing our little, they're like not true deep dives, they're like mini deep dives where we take on a historical thing. We talked about doing the Tulsa Massacre. I hope we still do that one.
If you have any other ideas of things that we should take a mini deep dive into, definitely post it down below. We appreciate y'all.
Y'all know what time it is. Peace, love, and hair grease.